In the late 90s, games were constantly evolving, and so were the 3D graphics in games. Texturing in video games were done differently in the past. The process involved a lot of creative work, and extensive amounts of resources were spent in this area. 3D artists had to go outside to take pictures or create them through an image editing software. The pictures would then be used as textures for 3D models. The textures also needed to have shadows and lights painted onto them to work in specific lighting environments. This method and the process behind it was creatively taxing and limited the assets from being used in different lighting conditions. It became obsolete by the end of 2003, and a new texturing method was made to solve that problem, using another system called PBR texture maps, and that is exactly what we'll be diving into today, starting with PBR. PBR, also known as physically based rendering, is a texture workflow that simulates how lights react with a model in an attempt to replicate real-life materials. PBR has become the standard method for texturing 3D models, and it is widely accepted in the CG industry. It allows us to have textures that would work in any lighting conditions. Previously, the methods for creating textures only worked in specific lighting conditions, limiting the models being used in different lighting environments. These are the following texture maps: Albedo, also known as base color or diffuse map, metallic or specular map, roughness or glossiness map, normal or bump map, height or displacement map, ambient occlusion, and opacity map. I'm going to start with albedo and diffuse maps. Albedo, aka base color, is an RGB map that only contains color information. It does not contain light nor shadow information. It relies on the PBR texture workflow, which uses the other texture maps for dynamic lighting, unlike a diffuse texture map, which is static lighting. A diffuse texture map is an RGB map that contains color, light, and shadow information. The diffuse map is a combination of color and ambient occlusion. Coming up next are metallic and specular maps. A metallic texture map is a grayscale map that defines which parts of the map are metallic and which parts aren't metallic. The white color means it's metallic, and the black color means it's non-metallic. A specular texture map is an RGB map that defines specular reflections of metals and the reflectivity of non-metals. It provides full control over the reflectivity of your material. Objects that aren't metallic have a reflectivity of 4 to 5%, and the colors are darker, ranging from 40 to 75 sRGB. Objects that are metallic have a reflectivity of 70 to 100%, and the colors are brighter, ranging from 180 to 255 sRGB. Metal areas are colored to represent their reflectance value. For example, copper, bronze, and gold. Moving on to roughness and glossiness maps. Roughness texture map is a grayscale map that is used to describe the surface irregularities, with black color being the smoothest or shiniest, and the white color being the roughest or dimmest. Glossiness texture map is a grayscale map that is similar to the roughness map. However, it is the inverse of a roughness map, where the black color is the roughest or dimmest, and the white color is the glossiest or smoothest. Coming up next are normal and bump maps. Normal map is an RGB map that simulates surfaces details, allowing us to fake depth and give our models bumps or dents without changing the model's silhouette. Normal maps are used more than bump maps because the RGB colors represent the XYZ coordinates of the surface's normals. A bump map is a grayscale map that is also used to fake depth and give the models bumps or dents. However, it only calculates the up and down directions of the texture map, which is why the map is used less. There are three types of normal maps: OpenGL normal map, DirectX normal map, and MIKK normal map. OpenGL normal maps have the green color facing upwards. DirectX normal maps have the green color facing downwards. It is best to make sure which normal map your 3D software or game engine supports. If you happen to use an OpenGL normal map on a game engine or 3D software that uses DirectX normal maps, then it is a matter of inverting the green channel. I have a video for where you can invert normal maps in Blender. Link is in the description. MIKK is another type of normal map which is industry standard. Moving on to height and displacement maps. A height map is a grayscale map that is used for creating displaced geometry. Height maps are used in larger scale, such as creating terrain and landscapes. It changes the model's silhouette. The black color means the lowest point of elevation, and the white color means the highest point of elevation. A displacement map is a grayscale map that functions similarly to a height map. However, it is used in smaller scale. Coming up next is Ambient Occlusion. Ambient Occlusion, or AO for short, is a grayscale map that indicates which areas are obscured by a shadow of an object. It provides shadow information for the albedo map. The black color means it is occluded, and the white color means it's non-occluded. It helps telling the light how it reacts with the texture, providing subtle details but still noticeable enough to make it look better. It can darken small crevices, giving it a more realistic look. Moving on to Opacity map. Opacity is an important texture map for 3D models that require transparency. It uses a grayscale map with black color being transparent and white color being opaque. It'll only render out the white parts of the texture map. We have two types of PBR workflows: the metallic roughness workflow and the specular glossiness workflow. The metallic roughness workflow uses the following maps: albedo map, metallic map, roughness map, normal map, and a height map. While the specular glossiness workflow uses the following maps: diffuse map, specular map, glossiness map, normal map, and a height map. The difference between metallic roughness workflow and the specular glossiness workflow is that specular glossiness is memory intensive because it is using RGB maps, while the metallic roughness workflow is more optimized due to it using grayscale maps, which is less memory intensive and easier for the computer to calculate. Metallic roughness workflow is used more, and has more topics online covering about it than the specular glossiness workflow. There's a slight downside to the metallic roughness workflow, which is the texture artifacts. The material transition points cause a white line artifact. This happens on lower resolution texture maps. However, the specular glossiness workflow doesn't produce these artifacts even when using lower resolution texture maps. Another disadvantage of metallic roughness workflow is having less control over the reflectivity for insulators, non-metallic objects. If artists don't understand the workflow, it is easy to use illogical values in the metalness map and break the system. Specular glossiness workflow has more control over the reflectivity for insulators, and it is provided with a full color input. It is also easy to use illogical reflectance values, which gives inaccurate results. Now I have a question for all of you. Did you find PBR texture maps confusing? What was the confusing part about it? Let me know your answers in the comment section down below. I'll leave a pinned comment there so you can answer it. Please consider supporting the channel by subscribing, leaving a like, and a comment down below. And if you have any more questions, suggestions, or even feedback, please let me know in the comment section down below. For further information, I've left a link in the description to Adobe Substance PBR guide. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.